10. Defensive deer. When Wanda Kaynor stepped outside her Evanston, Wyoming home one day in 2022 and saw a deer in her driveway, she went into protective mode. She instinctively struck the deer to prevent it from harming her or her dog first. Unfortunately for Wanda, the deer also responded according to instinct and charged at her, goring her with its antlers. The buck also gored her husband, Daniel. Wanda was left with several puncture wounds and crushed vertebrae. A passing UPS driver saw that she was in distress and helped her into her neighbor's vehicle. Her neighbors drove her to the hospital, where doctors predicted that she would need several weeks of rehabilitative care. Police euthanized the deer in accordance with the department's protocol on dealing with animals that are aggressive toward humans. Many social media users responded to footage of the encounter disapprovingly, mainly because Wanda didn't try to call her dog away from the deer before she resorted to hitting the animal. Some commenters pointed out how the buck reacted instinctively toward Wanda's aggression, not the other way around, and that if she tried to approach the situation without getting physical, things might have turned out much differently. People also accused the media of cutting out the portion of the video that showed Wanda making the first move and falsely portraying the deer's attack as unprovoked. 9. Senior citizen versus raccoon. While hanging some Christmas lights in the yard of her Massachusetts home one day in 2021, 70-year-old Donna Sanguinario heard a strange noise coming from the direction of the street. She turned to see what it was and came face to face with a huge raccoon standing about 10 feet away. It jumped on her and attacked her. It refused to let go as it bit and clawed her. Even after falling off Donna's arm, the raccoon jumped on her again and resumed the attack. Donna fought with all her strength and eventually managed to get the creature into a headlock. She knew she finally had the upper hand in the fight when she heard the bones in its neck cracking. When the raccoon stopped shrieking, she let go of it and it walked away. In a Facebook post recounting the terrifying encounter, Donna wrote that she was truly in fear for her life during the attack, which lasted for several minutes. She told local station WCVB that the raccoon weighed around 45 pounds. Donna received a round of rabies vaccines and treatment for her injuries. In the meantime, police tried to track down the raccoon so it could be tested for rabies, but it was nowhere to be found. 8. An unusually bold encounter. What started out as a normal evening for a family one day in 2021 took a wild turn. Nicole Au went outside with her daughters at their home in Calgary, Alberta. She was pushing her youngest daughter on her new bike when a coyote rushed up out of nowhere and sank its teeth into Nicole's thigh. Surveillance footage of the incident matches up with her account of how the coyote refused to let go of her leg as she tried to shoo and kick the animal away. After finally getting the coyote off of her, she went to the hospital where she was kept overnight for blood tests and so doctors could check for parasites. Nicole ended up needing some follow-up care, but told CBC News that she was glad that the coyote had attacked her rather than her kids. The attack came amid repeated sightings of what residents described as an unusually bold coyote in the neighborhood. In fact, Nicole was the second person to be attacked by the problematic animal, and a third victim was attacked shortly after her. The city's efforts to deter the coyote from the neighborhood failed, so they refocused their efforts on capturing and killing it. Unfortunately, this was seen as the only way to put an end to the issue, especially since the need to protect residents was urgent. 7. Attacked by an alligator. Shortly after Hurricane Ida tore through Louisiana in 2021, a woman heard a splash outside her St. Tammany Parish home. She went outside to find her husband, 71-year-old Timothy Satterley, being viciously attacked by an alligator. By then, the massive reptile had already ripped one of his arms off. Satterley's wife pulled her husband from the water and tried to help him with first aid supplies, but quickly realized the severity of his injuries and that he was in dire need of medical attention. She tried calling 911 but couldn't get help and fled the scene in a boat to seek help. When she returned, Satterley was nowhere to be found. The woman told law enforcement that her husband had gone outside to check on some of his belongings in their storage shed. At the time, the flooding outside their home in Slidell was about knee-deep. An initial search failed to turn up any sign of Satterley. Sheriff's deputies captured and killed the 12-foot-long, 500-pound suspect a few weeks later. They found human remains inside the creature, which answered any lingering questions about Satterlee's unfortunate fate. 6. A nighttime intrusion. Early one morning in 2018, a young woman named Jody Nylard awoke to a throbbing pain in her arm and realized she was covered in blood. She looked to the end of the bed and saw a fox standing there. Jody screamed and burst into tears, not knowing what to do about the unexpected home intruder. During her emotional reaction, she accidentally kicked the fox and it ran away, exiting through a sliding door that had been left open. Jody's boyfriend Harry saw the fox lurking in the yard and threw pillows at it to scare it away. He took Jody to the hospital, where she received rabies, tetanus, and polio vaccines. Unprovoked fox attacks on humans are rare in Britain, making Jody one of the unlucky handful who are victimized each year. Speaking with The Sun, Jody explained that she didn't know whether the fox targeted her out of aggression or if she moved her arm in her sleep and caused the animal to react out of fear. She said that she was grateful the fox didn't go for her face. 5. Killer crocodile. While fetching his pet chicken from outside his home in Sabah, Malaysia, one day in 2022, a young boy and his cousin spotted a crocodile just feet away. One of the children screamed and the boy tried to run, but the hungry reptile grabbed his leg. Luckily, he was able to free himself by kicking at the crocodile. The boy was taken to a hospital with serious injuries and underwent surgery to repair the damage. Being in close proximity to a crocodile is dangerous to any human, and because there's no such thing as a domesticated crocodile, trying to keep one as a pet is utterly reckless. In early 2019, a woman named Desi Tuwo was mauled to death by a crocodile at the farm where she worked in Indonesia. The offending creature was being kept illegally as a pet at the farm and attacked the victim while she was feeding it. Investigators believe Tuwo fell into the enclosure, although conflicting reports claim the crocodile dragged her into the cage. The more than 1,500-pound creature bit off Tuwo's arm and most of her abdomen. Its owner apparently wasn't around at the time. Authorities removed the crocodile from the property and took it to a conservation area and opened an investigation into the horrific incident. Conservation spokesman Hendricks Rundengen told the BBC that officials knew about the crocodile being kept as a pet. They'd visited the farm several times during past attempts to seize the animal, but the front gate was always locked and nobody let them in. Unfortunately, it took a tragedy for them to be able to access the site and finally remove the illegal pet. 4. Black bear break-in. During the COVID-19 pandemic, retired Dr. Laurel Rose von Hoffman-Kersey used her cabin in North Lake Tahoe, California as a refuge while receiving treatment for cancer. And while the vacation home's remote location may have helped her keep away from the threat of human pathogens, she encountered an entirely different problem. One day, a black bear got into the cabin and charged right at Laurel Rose in the pitch dark. She later told The Today Show that the fact that she couldn't see anything made the attack even more terrifying than it already would have been to begin with. Laurel Rose described how she screamed while the bear tore her apart. At some point, she grabbed a quilt and threw it on the bear, causing it to become disoriented and to finally run away. Afterward, Laurel Rose acknowledged that she was incredibly lucky to be alive, even though she was left covered in lacerations and facial injuries. Authorities were able to get a sample of the bear's DNA at the scene. The attack happened amid a troubling spate of encounters between humans and bears in Northern Carolina. Over the last 25 years, the region's black bear population has tripled, making run-ins with the species increasingly difficult to avoid. Another Lake Tahoe resident was attacked in her own home in 2022 when a bear slipped inside her house while she was taking out the garbage. She discovered the intruder when she went back inside. The bear scratched her face and knocked her down, but she was luckily able to get away and call for help. Fish and Wildlife Captain Patrick Foy told Today that bears rarely attack people and that they're usually not out to hurt people. But when it does happen, the department's policy is for officers to track and euthanize the animal to prevent another aggressive encounter. In most cases, a bear approaches a home or a person because they smell food, according to Foy, who said that storing food properly can help prevent one of these unwanted visitors. 3. Emboldened bobcats. North Carolina couple Christy and Happy Wade left their house in Burgle early one morning in 2021 with their senior cat, who had a veterinary appointment that day. Just moments after Happy greeted a passing jogger, a bobcat ran across the street and attacked Christy from behind. She could be heard yelling at her husband to run in harrowing surveillance footage of the attack. Christy later told local station WECT that she heard the bobcat growling in the moments leading up to the encounter. She knew that she was hearing a wild cat and the animal sounded angry, but she couldn't figure out what direction the sound was coming from. Happy grabbed the bobcat, carried it away, and threw it several feet. He said he reacted as soon as he saw the feline trying to bite Christy's neck. After throwing the animal, he chased after it with a handgun in case it tried running back toward the house. The bobcat was behaving unusually, so he shot it. He knew he made the right call when he found out that its remains had tested positive for rabies. Both Happy and Christy were left with several bite injuries and received treatment for their injuries. 2. A deadly run-in. During his work break one day in December 2022, Curtis Warland stopped at his house in Nome and noticed a pack of muskox in his yard. The wild animals were near Warland's dog kennel, so he went outside to try scaring them off. A little while later, a civilian dialed 911 and reported that Warland was injured near his home. By the time law enforcement and emergency responders arrived, Warland was dead with a severe injury to his leg. Investigators learned that he had used his snowmobile in his attempt to ward off the muskoxen. One of the animals charged at him and gored him with its horns, causing the fatal injury. Warland, who worked as a court services officer for the Alaska State Troopers, shot his service weapon repeatedly during the confrontation. Authorities concluded that the muskox that attacked Warland was a threat to public safety, which meant that if they could track it down, they would euthanize the animal. According to the most recent update, the search was ongoing. The deadly attack shocked people in the community and elsewhere, especially since muskox attacks on humans are extremely rare, although the species is known to attack dogs from time to time, which explains Warland's attempts to drive them off the property. His death marked the first known instance of a muskox killing a human in Nome. 1. Fight with a fox. A woman was outside her home in Ithaca, New York, while talking on the phone one day in 2022, when a wild fox snuck up behind her and attacked her. Surveillance footage of the shocking encounter showed the crazed animal gnawing ravenously on the victim's leg. The woman kicked the fox, sending it flying into the air, but the animal ran straight back at her and bit her hand. It refused to let go until a neighbor came by and scared it off. In a social media post sharing the footage, the victim's husband wrote that the fox tried to attack another person after it went after his wife. But the offending creature was killed and carted off to a lab at Cornell University, where it tested positive for rabies. There are several different animals that are known to be at high risk of passing rabies onto humans, including foxes, raccoons, bats, and skunks. Luckily, as long as a person receives treatment promptly after an attack, an infection can be prevented. Thanks to the rabies vaccine and post-exposure shots that are available, the US experiences just 1 to 3 rabies cases a year among humans. Thanks for watching. Would you rather get sprayed by a skunk while taking out your garbage and walk away from the situation uninjured but smelling terrible? Or spend weeks feeling trapped in your home by a rabid raccoon that keeps coming around and acting aggressive, but somehow manages to evade capture every single time? Let us know in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Bye.